My name is Alex Mason. I tell workplace revenge stories where humiliation becomes a turning point, betrayal sparks strategy, and justice arrives without shouting. Not with violence, not with chaos, with documentation, leverage, and timing. A weekly leadership sync, glass walls, cold lighting, 6 people in the room, 2 more on video, 1 HR partner sitting quietly at the edge with a laptop, just observing. My manager, Blake Hargrove, stood beside the screen like he was about to deliver a verdict. He clicked to a slide titled Delivery Bottlenecks. Then he looked at me and smiled. Not friendly, not curious. A smile that says, "This is where I make my point." "Alex," Blake said, "we need speed, not whatever this is." He tapped the slide. "You're too slow." A few people laughed, not because it was funny, because laughing in a toxic room is camouflage. Blake raised his voice just enough to make sure it carried. "I can't have the company waiting for you to think. We need movers. We need action." He leaned forward, because right now, your pace is putting all of us at risk. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't defend the work I'd been building quietly, work he had blocked every time I tried to deploy it properly. I nodded once and said, "Understood." Blake's smile widened. He thought he'd established dominance. He didn't realize he'd started a countdown. Because 60 days later, Meridian Cloud Logistics was minutes away from a public collapse, and the only thing that stopped it was the work Blake called too slow. The company was called Meridian Cloud Logistics. We built software that tracked inventory across multiple warehouses for large retail clients, dashboards, alerts, forecasts, routing signals. On the outside, Meridian looked stable. Polished branding, modern lobby, executives who spoke in clean sound bites. On the inside, it ran on one belief: speed is leadership. Not sustainable speed, not disciplined speed, the kind of speed that looks good in a quarterly deck. Meridian loved urgent language because urgent language hides weak planning. Ship it, move fast, don't block, stop overthinking. Words that sound like performance until you realize they're just shortcuts around responsibility. Blake Hargrove was the loudest believer. Blake ran product operations, timelines, priorities, alignment. He didn't understand systems deeply, but he understood pressure. He knew how to make careful people look like they were the problem. If you asked questions, you were negative. If you wanted a plan, you were slow. If you wanted proof, you were overcomplicating. Blake didn't build the product. He managed the story, and stories don't like details. I worked in operations risk and reliability, the part of the company no one celebrates. The job was simple: find what could break before it breaks. But in a culture addicted to speed, warnings are treated like insults. And I had been watching a specific risk build for months, quietly. A risk that didn't show up in meetings, a risk that didn't fit on a slide, a risk that lived between systems, and when it would hit fast. Meridian's biggest client was Havenbrook Retail. If Havenbrook left, we didn't just lose revenue, we lost credibility. Havenbrook ran dozens of warehouses. They used our alerts to decide what moved and what waited. They didn't want flashy features. They wanted something simple: reliable inventory signals. But our data had a problem: subtle, invisible to leadership, deadly in operations. On high-volume days, our reconciliation pipeline lagged behind reality by 45 to 90 minutes. That doesn't sound dramatic until you understand logistics. A 1-hour delay becomes missed restocks, missed deliveries, refund demands, angry executives, procurement shopping alternatives. I saw the pattern by doing the unglamorous work: comparing warehouse timestamps, correlating spikes with vendor ingestion windows, tracing freshness drift across regions, mapping how one delayed feed cascaded into downstream false alerts. The engineering team called it sync noise. Blake called it edge cases. I called it what it was: a reliability issue that would become a public crisis the moment a major shipment got misrouted. So I built a monitoring framework.
Not a science project, not a thesis, a practical system, a data freshness score per warehouse feed, early warning triggers based on lag thresholds, anomaly detection tied to vendor pipeline behavior, a mitigation playbook with exact actions, what to freeze, what to reroute, who to page. I packaged it cleanly. A short doc, one-page summary, clear risk framing. Then I brought it to Blake. His office was always immaculate. No clutter, no loose papers. Image first. He skimmed my summary like it was a nuisance. Then he laughed softly. "Alex," he said, "this is why people say you're slow." I kept my tone calm. "This prevents outages," I replied. "It's early detection." Blake waved his hand.
"We don't have time for this," he said. "We're shipping growth. Havenbrook wants improvements they can see. Havenbrook wants stability," I said. Blake leaned back, smiling. "And they'll get it," he said, "when we're done building momentum." That's how reckless leaders speak, as if fundamentals can wait, as if reliability is optional. I left his office and did something quiet professionals always do. I documented the warning. I saved the report, the date, the email thread. Because in companies like Meridian, you don't win with memory, you win with records. The too slow line wasn't spontaneous, it was strategic. Blake needed to undermine me before reality proved me right, so he did it publicly. He titled the leadership sync Delivery Bottlenecks. Then he built a slide that made it look like the company was suffering because people were overthinking. He clicked through a few metrics and then paused. "Alex is brilliant," he said with a grin that wasn't kind. "But brilliance doesn't help if you're too slow to execute." Quiet laughs again. Then Blake added, "Alex loves to analyze, loves to build models. Meanwhile, the business is moving." He looked at me like he was offering me a chance to redeem myself. "So tell us, Alex, are you going to speed up or do we need someone else?" That question wasn't about performance, it was about control. It was designed to force me into emotion, beg, defend, break. I did none of that. I nodded once. "Understood," I said. Blake smirked, satisfied, as if he just proved something. The meeting ended. People stood. As the room emptied, the HR partner, Kendra Shaw, passed me and said quietly, "Rough room." "Just a meeting," I replied. She paused, then lowered her voice. "If you need anything documented, send it to yourself." Then she walked away like she'd said too much. I went back to my desk and opened a file I always kept. Timeline. Date, time, meeting name, exact words. I typed one line and stared at it. He called me too slow and implied I was a bottleneck in front of leadership. I didn't send it yet, but I saved it because the record is leverage. A week later, I tried to do the right thing the simple way. I requested a small server space to run the monitoring framework in parallel. Safe, non-invasive, just enough to prove the signal was real. I filed the ticket. Blake rejected it in the system. No conversation, no questions, just a comment. Denied, not priority. Stop gold plating. Gold plating. That's what reckless people call responsibility when it slows their timeline. I replied with one sentence. This is not gold plating. This is risk detection. 5 minutes later, Blake responded, "Alex, we need speed, not perfection." Perfection, another word people use to dismiss caution. So I adjusted. I ran the framework locally. I pulled exports at night. I rebuilt the dashboard in a test environment no one cared about. It wasn't ideal, but it was enough. And here's what no one tells you. The work that saves companies is often built in the shadows because leadership is too busy choosing optics to fund fundamentals. During those weeks, I kept getting messages from coworkers. "Why do you keep pushing this? Blake's not going to approve it. Just move on." I never replied with anger. I replied with truth, because this will happen again. And I kept building. By day 35, Havenbrook's tone had changed. They stopped sending long emails. They sent short ones. Short emails are worse. Long emails mean frustration. Short emails mean decisions. Their ops lead wrote, "Alerts are late again. Mystery stock window. Need explanation." Blake responded with language, not solutions. "Temporary sync delays. Team is investigating. Appreciate your patience." Patience is what vendors ask for when they don't have control. I forwarded Blake my updated framework summary again. 1 page, simple. Blake replied, "Not now." 2 words. That's what denial looks like in a company that worships speed. On day 41, I noticed a repeating signature in the logs. Every time high volume hit, a specific third-party vendor integration slowed our ingestion pipeline. Not random, not noise, a pattern. I wrote it up with timestamps and sent it to Raphael, the CTO, directly.
Raphael replied, "Show me." That was the first time I felt a real shift, because Blake controlled the story in meetings, but he couldn't control the truth when the right people started asking for it. On day 47, Havenbrook didn't email. They requested a leadership call, a real call. The kind of call where the client's tone tells you procurement has been informed. Blake joined the call with his calm confidence voice. Monica Hale, Havenbrook's procurement director, didn't match it. "We've escalated this 3 times, she said. Your alerts are lank, your numbers draft. Our warehouses can't operate on uncertainty." Blake smiled through the speaker. "We understand the concern. It's a temporary sync delay."
Monica then accepted. "No," she said, "it's a reliability issue. We need a plan, not language." Blake glanced at me on the internal video feed like he was warning me not to speak. I stayed quiet, not because I was afraid, because I was watching the truth tighten around him. Monica continued, "We're reviewing alternatives. If you can't guarantee stability, we'll transition." Blake forced a laugh. "We can guarantee stability." Monica responded immediately. "Then show us." After the call, Blake turned to the room. "We need to move faster," he said, louder than necessary. I looked at Raphael. "We need to see lag before it hits them," I said calmly. "I can show you the monitoring framework today." Raphael narrowed his eyes. "Send it." Blake jumped in. "We'll review later." Raphael didn't look at him. "Send it now," he repeated. I did, and for the first time, the people who mattered started asking about facts instead of Blake's performance. After day 47, Meridian entered a strange phase. Leadership knew something was wrong, but Blake still tried to control the narrative. He scheduled meetings. He created action plans that were mostly language. He told executives, "We're stabilizing, we're monitoring, we're aligned." Meanwhile, I was doing the real work. I met with Raphael's engineers and walked him through the playbook, not with dramatic speeches, with specifics. If freshness drops below this threshold, freeze non-critical sync jobs. If vendor pipeline delay repeats, reroute ingestion to fallback. Page the right team early, not after the client calls. Raphael asked, "How long have you been building this?" "Since before the first complaint," I said. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then he nodded. "Keep going," he said. "I'll cover you." That sentence mattered more than any compliment, because it meant someone with authority was finally prioritizing truth over optics. But Blake wasn't done. When he realized Raphael was listening to me, Blake tried to reframe the narrative. He started saying in meetings, "We're building a reliability initiative. We." He invited himself into my work like he'd always been part of it. I didn't correct him, not yet, because correcting him too early would turn this into a fight, and fights create noise. I wanted proof. Day 60 landed on a Thursday. High volume day, retail promotions, multiple warehouses, heavy traffic. At 9:12 a.m., my framework, still running quietly, triggered red flags. Freshness was falling, lag spikes were stacking. The pattern was exactly what I'd been warning about. This wasn't a delay, this was a cascade. At 9:25 a.m., Havenbrook called, not emailed, called. At 9:31 a.m., support channels exploded, warehouses reporting missing inventory, orders flagged incorrectly, restock schedules failing, alerts arriving too late to matter. At 9:35 a.m., CEO Elaine Mercer demanded a war room. Blake rushed in, speaking fast. "It's a vendor issue," he said immediately. "We're investigating." Elaine's face tightened. "How long?" she asked. Blake shrugged. "We'll update soon." That's what performers say when they don't have control. I didn't speak immediately because the first minutes of crisis are full of noise. People talk to feel in control, but control comes from action. At 9:41 a.m., I put my dashboard on the main screen. A simple view. Feed lag by region. Vendor pipeline status. Predicted failure threshold and 18 minutes of no mitigation triggered. The room went quiet. Elaine stared. "What is that?" she asked. I kept my voice calm. "It's the monitoring framework I've been building," I said. "We have about 18 minutes before alerts become unusable." Blake snapped toward me. "What are you doing?" he hissed. I ignored him and looked at Elaine. "We can reroute reconciliation to a fallback pipeline and freeze not critical sync jobs," I said. "It stabilizes freshness." Raphael leaned closer. "That could work," he said. Blake scoffed. "This is not the time for experiments." Elaine turned to him. "Do you have a better plan?" she asked. Blake hesitated. That hesitation was everything. Elaine looked back at me. "Alex," she said. "Do it." I nodded once. "No drama," I said. "Just execution." I worked with Raphael and 2 engineers. We followed the playbook step by step. By 9:57 a.m., the lag curve flattened. By 10:04 a.m., freshness recovered. By 10:12 a.m., Havenbrook stabilized. And for the first time that morning, the room exhaled. Not relief, shock, because Meridian had been minutes away from a public disaster, and the only reason it didn't happen was the work was called too slow. Most people left the war room quickly, like they wanted to outrun accountability. Elaine stayed. Blake tried to speak first. "We should evaluate processes," he began. Elaine raised a hand. "No," she said. "We should evaluate decisions." She looked at me. "How long have you had this?" she asked. "Almost 2 months," I replied. "I flagged the risk early. I send reports."
It was deprioritized. Blake stiffened. Elaine turned to Raphael. "True?" she asked. Raphael nodded. "He warned about lag cascades weeks ago," Raphael said.
and he built the solution. Elaine looked at Blake. "Did you block this?" she asked. Blake smiled tightly. "I didn't block it," he said quickly. "We had competing priorities." Elaine's voice stayed calm. "Show me the thread," she said. "I didn't accuse. I didn't argue. I forwarded the email chain. My reports, my warnings, my proposed framework. Blake's responses, "Not now. Stop gold plating. We need speed." And the ticket denial. And the timeline note. The truth organized. Blake's mouth opened. No sound came out. Elaine stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she said, quietly, "Blake, you humiliated the person who just saved this company." Blake swallowed. "I was pushing urgency," he said. Elaine nodded once. "No," she said. "You were punishing responsibility." She stood. "Alex," she said, "I want this reliability framework turned into a formal program starting today." Then she looked at Raphael. "And I want Blake removed from operational decision-making." Blake's face drained. "Elaine, it's done," she said. "No yelling, just a decision." 2 days later, Meridian held an all-hands. These meetings were always about one thing: controlling the story before employees started telling the truth to each other. Blake stood near the front again, same posture, same confidence. He began talking about lessons learned and rapid response. Then he said the word I expected. "We," he said, "built a framework that prevented escalation." We. The room stayed quiet. People who worked late knew what "we" meant. Elaine waited until Blake finished. Then she walked to the front with no expression. "No," she said calmly. "Alex built it." Blake's smile froze. Elaine continued. "He documented the risk, he warned early, he built the solution, and he executed under pressure." Then she added the line that changed how the room felt. "Speed without reliability isn't leadership, it's gambling." She looked across the crowd. "If you've ever been called slow for doing it right," she said, "keep doing it right." The room stayed silent for a second. Then people nodded, not loudly, but enough, because everyone knew the truth. The system had punished responsibility until responsibility saved it. Here's what this story is really about. In toxic workplaces, speed is often used as a weapon. They call you slow when you're careful. They call you overthinking when you're accurate. They call you a problem when you won't lie. But sometimes being slow is what saves people, because quiet professionals document. They build systems. They prepare for the day reality shows up, and reality always shows up. If this story hit close to home, tell me in the comments. Have you ever been punished for doing it right while someone else was rewarded for being loud? Subscribe to Alex Mason Stories for more workplace revenge stories where humiliation becomes strategy and justice arrives with precision.